Chapter 15. The Supreme Beloved. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationships. Introduction to Nectar of Devotion. One evening we were sitting in my father's study, and I'd been wrestling with one question which was bothering me for weeks. "I need to tell you something that might sound strange," I said. He looked up from his book, patient as always. "Go ahead." In all my years teaching yoga and meditation, I've helped people find peace, clarity, inner stillness. Some of my students have had profound experiences, glimpses of that transcendental consciousness we talked about in Volume 2. But then they come back and ask me, "Now what? I've touched something beyond my mind, but it feels empty. Is that really it?" My father set down his book. "And what do you tell them?" "I don't know what to tell them," I admitted, "because I'm starting to feel the same way. I've experienced that inner paradise, that freedom from anxiety and fear. But lately I keep wondering, freedom from something, but freedom for what? What am I supposed to do with this consciousness I've achieved?" "You're asking about the object of love," my father said simply. "The what?" "The destination. The beloved person at the end of the journey." He leaned forward. "Everything we've discussed so far, the practices, the purification, even the ecstasy, they're all incomplete without understanding who you're falling in love with. Path isn't just about inner transformation. It's about discovering the Supreme Beloved whose qualities naturally, eternally, and irresistibly attract the soul. The ultimate reality. Let me start with something that might surprise you," my father said. "The ultimate goal transcends abstract spiritual consciousness. Philosophical liberation, what many seekers aim for, is only a halfway point." Halfway. I was confused. But isn't merging into the spiritual light, the Brahman, supposed to be the highest attainment? That's what many schools of thought teach. But Srila Prabhupada clarified something crucial, that Brahman effulgence, the spiritual light people try to merge into, is not the ultimate end. It's merely the bodily ray of Krishna, an exhibition of his energy. Krishna confirms in the Bhagavad Gita that he is the source of this effulgence. My father found the passage and read, "Impersonalists who aim to merge into this light are described as dwelling in the river water of liberation, having no idea of the transcendental form of the Supreme Lord. Consequently, they have no chance of chanting and hearing his transcendental activities." "So they achieve liberation but miss the person?" I asked. "Exactly. The true destination, the object of eternal affection, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is eternally complete in eternity, blissfulness, and cognizance. He is the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all relationships, and the supreme attractive form." "But why does it matter if God is personal or impersonal?" I asked. "Isn't the important thing just to transcend the material world?" My father smiled. "Think about your own experience. When you've achieved that state of inner peace, that stillness, is it fulfilling? Or does something feel missing?" I thought about it honestly. It's peaceful, but it's also lonely, like being in a beautiful empty room. That's because the living entity, you, me, every soul, being a fragmental part of the Supreme, possesses an inherent propensity to love. True realization demands reposing this love in the Supreme Beloved. It is only when one comes into contact with the personal form of Krishna that actual joyfulness is achieved. "So love requires a person to love," I said slowly. "Exactly. Devotional service is absolute. It is both the cause and the effect, and the process of approaching the absolute must also be absolute. You can't have a relationship with a concept. You can't exchange feelings with an energy. But you can love a person. Devotion surpasses liberation." "Now here's where it gets really interesting," my father said, his voice taking on excitement. The power of Krishna's transcendental qualities is proven by the fact that they attract those who have already attained freedom from material contamination. You mean people who are already liberated? I asked. Yes. They're called Atmaramas, those who are wholly freed from all kinds of material desires. Despite having achieved perfect internal fulfillment, these liberated persons are irresistibly attracted by the desire to hear and understand the pastimes of the Lord. But if they're already fulfilled, why would they need anything else? My father leaned back. That's the point. Proves that the glories and pastimes of the Lord are not material. They're not offering something these souls lack. They're offering something infinitely more attractive than the peace they've already achieved. He read from his notes. The fulfillment found in transcendental loving service, Bhakti Rasa, is so complete that the pure devotee voluntarily rejects the greatest attainments sought by non-devotees. Like what? I asked. Merging into the impersonal existence, even if offered a post like Krishna's or personal association with similar bodily features, devotees refuse to accept it. They're satisfied simply by being engaged in service. That seems extreme, I said. Does it? Or is it natural? Think about being in love, genuine, deep love. If someone offered you absolute independence, complete freedom from all responsibilities, but it meant you could never see your beloved again, would you take it? I shook my head immediately. No. That's what devotees feel, but infinitely more intensely. The happiness derived from pure devotional service is the highest because it's eternal. One drop of happiness in Krishna consciousness stands beyond comparison with an ocean of happiness derived from any other activity. My father found another passage. Pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure and makes those engaged in it deride even the conception of liberation. They realize that the happiness of merging into the light is no more than the water in the impression left by a cow's hoof in the earth, compared to the ocean of bliss found in loving service. So, liberation isn't the goal? I asked, trying to understand. Liberation is the foundation, not the destination. Maharaja Prithu prayed that if, after taking liberation, he had no chance of hearing the glories of the Lord chanted by pure devotees, he would never ask for liberation. He prayed instead for millions of tongues and millions of ears, so he could constantly chant and hear of transcendental glories. He'd rather have relationship than freedom, I said. Because true freedom is found in relationship. And here's the key: Krishna is controlled by love. He willingly becomes obliged to the loving spirit of the devotee, not exactly to the service rendered because he has no need of service. The devotee's love is even transcendentally stronger than Krishna himself, because it is Krishna's internal potency. Krishna's 64 qualities. Okay, I said, pulling out my notebook. So Krishna is the Supreme Beloved, the person at the center of everything. But what makes him attractive? What are his qualities? That's exactly what we need to explore, my father said with satisfaction. Rupa Goswami, after consulting various scriptures, enumerates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has 50 transcendental qualities in fullness, as deep as the ocean. 50? I said. And as eternal, minute fragmental parts of the divine living entities possess these same qualities only in minute quantities, provided they become pure devotees. But Krishna possesses qualities that distinguish him from his expansions. He has 5 more qualities partially manifested in great personalities, 5 other qualities manifest in the Narayana form, and 4 exceptional qualities that are not manifest even in Narayana. So 64 total, I calculated. Exactly. Let me share some of the most compelling characteristics that define Krishna as the Supreme Beloved. These aren't abstract theological concepts. They're the qualities that make him irresistibly attractive to souls who encounter him. The reciprocating qualities. Let's start with qualities that enable intimate, trusting relationships, my father said. Grateful. First, Krishna is Kitaja, grateful. He is conscious of his friend's beneficent activities and never forgets service rendered to him. God is grateful? That surprised me. I thought God was supposed to be beyond all that. That's what makes Krishna so attractive. He's not a distant, cold deity. He reciprocates. There's a beautiful story about this involving Draupadi, the wife of the Pavas. My father found the passage and read, "When I was away from Draupadi, she cried with the words, 'He Govinda.' This call for me has put me in her debt, and that indebtedness is gradually increasing in my heart." He feels indebted? I asked. Yes. This reveals that anyone constantly engaged in addressing the Lord, such as through the Mahamantra, attracts his attention and he always remains obliged to them. It's impossible for the Lord to ever forget such a devotee. So, calling out to God isn't just us reaching for him, he responds, I said. He doesn't just respond, he feels grateful. That's relationship. Self-controlled. Krishna is also Vasi, self-controlled. He's addressed as Ki, the master of the senses. Though he had 16,000 wives in Dvaraka, all exquisitely beautiful, their femininity and allure could not even agitate the mind of Krishna. Why is that important? I asked. Because it means he's never controlled by lust or material desire. His relationships are always based on pure love, never exploitation. Think about human relationships. How often are they contaminated by selfish desire by people using each other? With Krishna, that's impossible. His love is always pure. All-honorable and supreme controller. Krishna is worshipped by all living entities, including the great demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. He is completely independent, Svar. His orders cannot be neglected by anyone. That sounds authoritarian, I said cautiously. It would be if he were a tyrant. But his authority is based on his being the source of everything. It's like the sun doesn't command the planets to orbit, but they do so naturally because of what the sun is. Kings and emperors offered gifts and paid obeisances to Krishna not out of fear, but out of recognition of his supreme position. Highly learned and genius. Krishna is Kovati and Medhavi, highly learned and a genius. Although he doesn't require education, just as the ocean doesn't receive water from any source but itself, he gave the goddess of learning an opportunity to serve him as a classmate in school. He showed such a sharp memory that by once taking instructions from the teacher, he immediately became perfect in any subject. He went to school? That struck me as endearingly human. Yes, he performs human activities but perfectly. He's also a genius who can refute any kind of opposing element with newer and newer arguments. When questioned by Radharani, Krishna cunningly utilized the different meanings of Sanskrit words to answer her inquiries and gladden her. He's playful, I observed. Brilliantly playful. He's not just omniscient in a cold computational way. He's creative, witty, joyful in his intelligence. Changeless and ever fresh. Krishna is avikara, changeless. He maintains his constitutional position even when he appears in this material world. He's not affected by the modes of material nature. But he's also Nityanutana, ever fresh. Devotees never become saturated with remembering Krishna or chanting his name. Instead, they get newer and newer impetus to continue the process. How can he be both changeless and ever fresh? I asked. Think of the ocean, my father said. The ocean is always the ocean, that doesn't change. But if you visit it every day, you never see the same wave twice. It's constantly moving, constantly new, yet always itself. Not only Krishna himself, but also Krishna's knowledge is ever fresh. The Bhagavad Gita, imparted thousands of years ago, is still yielding new light to people today. Magnanimous and liberal. Krishna is so magnanimous, Adarya, that his generosity surpasses imagination. While reigning in Dvaraka, Krishna expanded into 16,108 forms, and from each palace he gave charity daily. 16,000 forms? I tried to wrap my mind around it. each one fully conscious, fully present, fully loving. He's also Dayalu, liberal, naturally mild in his behavior. His kindness is such that if a servant is accused even of great offenses, Krishna does not take this into consideration. He simply considers the service rendered by his devotee. He forgives, I said. More than forgives, he focuses on the positive. He sees your love, not your failures. The Narayana opulence. Now let's talk about the qualities manifest in the Narayana form, my father said, demonstrating his all-encompassing sovereignty. Inconceivable potency. Krishna possesses Asintya Sakti, inconceivable potency. He is present everywhere, not only within the universe and the hearts of all living entities but also within every atom. Krishna can even illusion great personalities like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and he can protect all surrendered devotees from sinful reactions. He's omnipresent, I said. Not just present, actively conscious and caring in every location simultaneously. Origin of countless universes. Innumerable universes are coming and going from the pores of your body, just as atomic particles are seen flickering in the sunlight. Brahma admitted that his own body was insignificant compared to the gigantic pot of the universe, and yet innumerable universes emanate from Krishna's pores. That's incomprehensible, I said. It's meant to be. But here's what matters. The same person who contains infinite universes in his pores also plays as a child, steals butter, and loves his devotees personally. That's the mystery. All opulent. Krishna is Sarvasvarya Pra, full in all opulences, strength, wealth, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. In Dvaraka, his family, the Yadu dynasty, consisted of 560 million members, housed in more than 900,000 palaces. Those numbers are staggering, I said. They're meant to convey abundance beyond calculation. But notice, despite all that wealth, Krishna is also completely renounced. He possesses everything but is attached to nothing. That's true freedom. Giver of salvation to enemies. This one always amazed me, my father said. Krishna awards salvation even to the enemies he kills. Both impersonalists and demons who are killed by Krishna become absorbed in the Brahman concept of life. Even his enemies are liberated? I asked. Even his enemies. Imagine that level of generosity. Even those who oppose him receive spiritual benefit from the encounter. Tractor of liberated souls. And as we mentioned, Krishna's qualities attract even great liberated souls who have no material needs or desires. Qualities exclusive to Krishna. Now we come to the 4 qualities, my father said, his voice dropping with reverence, that are not manifest even in the Narayana form. These are the characteristics that define his unparalleled sweetness and the highest realm of devotional relationship. Performer of wonderful pastimes. Krishna is the performer of wonderful varieties of pastimes, Lila Madhurya, especially his childhood pastimes. Though Narayana's pastimes are exciting, the pastimes of the Rasa Lila performed by Krishna himself are wonderfully increasing in transcendental pleasure. What makes them so special? I asked. His life is full of beautiful contradictions. He can lift Govardhana Hill with one finger, yet he goes to the forest to collect dry wood for his guru. He is the supreme controller, yet he acts as an obedient child. He is described as the greatest sculptor, able to chisel away at the stone-like devotion people have to material existence with the chisel of his beauty. Surrounded by loving devotees. Krishna is surrounded by devotees endowed with the wonderful love of Godhead. He's not alone. Krishna means his name, qualities, fame, friends, paraphernalia, and entourage. The gopis' love is so ecstatic that when they see Krishna, they condemn the Creator for the blinking of our eyelids, because in that moment when their eyes were closed, they couldn't see him. Do they resent blinking? I couldn't help but smile. That's how precious his presence is to them. Every fraction of a second without seeing him feels like a loss. A tractor by his flute. Krishna can attract all living entities all over the universes by playing on his flute, Murali Mohana. The sound vibration is so potent that it penetrated through the covering of this universe and reached the spiritual sky. My father's voice filled with wonder as he read. Not only women but even strong-hearted men are subject to falling down from their position at the sound of his flute. Even the cows, the deer, the birds, the trees, everyone has been enchanted by the sweet vibration. This melody bewilders great personalities like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Music that affects everything? I asked. Not just affects, transforms. 'Cause it's not just music. It's the sound of divine love calling to every soul, reminding them of home. Wonderful excellence of beauty. Finally, Krishna has a wonderful excellence of beauty, Rupa Madhurya, which cannot be rivaled anywhere in creation. His bodily hue is blackish, like the tamala tree, and his bodily luster is more glorious than the sunshine. My father found the famous passage and read, "My dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within this material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna, who is standing on the bank of Kesagata. He is known as Govinda, and his eyes are very enchanting. He is playing upon his flute, and on his head there is a peacock feather. And his whole body is illuminated by the moonlight in the sky." Why is it phrased as a warning? I asked. 'Cause once you become attached to Krishna's form, you forget the nonsense of material friendship, love, and society. It's like falling so deeply in love that everything else loses its appeal. Attachment to the Sri Murthy, the deity of Krishna, saves people from unwanted activities like excessive entertainment, drinking, smoking. Not through force, but because something infinitely more attractive has captured their heart. More transcendental characteristics. There are so many more qualities, my father said, flipping through his notes. Let me share a few more that are particularly touching. Fulgent and pleasing. Krishna's effulgence, the Brahman, pervades the universe, emanating from his body. And his body features are described as rusaira, pleasing. Creator is said to have ended all of his craftsmanship in the creation of this particular body of Krishna. His transcendental body resembles the lotus flower in 8 parts: face, eyes, hands, navel, and feet. Steadfast and forbearing. Krishna is steadfast, Thyra. He continues to work until his desired goal is achieved. He is also forbearing, Kam, tolerating all kinds of troubles. When serving his guru, he underwent difficulties, such as going to the forest for dry wood, despite his body being very soft and delicate. So he serves? I asked. Perfectly. He demonstrates every relationship from both sides. Pure. Krishna possesses 2 kinds of supreme purity. He can deliver all sinful conditioned souls, and at the same time, he never does anything which is impure. Arjuna addresses him as Parabrahma Paradama Pavitra, the supreme pure. Possessing equilibrium. Krishna is unaffected by attachment and envy, demonstrating perfect equilibrium, sama. When chastising the poisonous serpent Kaliya, the serpent's wives recognize that his punishment for enemies and his dealings with his sons are both the same. He is impartial. If an enemy is qualified, he will reward him, and if a son is a culprit, he will chastise him. Respectful and gentle. Krishna offers respect to superior persons such as his spiritual master, father, and elder brother. He never forgets to show social etiquette. He is gentle, Susila, never impudent or puffed up. When receiving Maharaja Yudhishthir, his elder cousin, Krishna got down from his own chariot and immediately fell at the feet of the king. The Supreme Person bows down? I asked, moved by the image. With genuine respect, he demonstrates perfect humility while being the Supreme Lord. Shy and happy. Krishna is sometimes shy, exhibiting humility and bashfulness. His shyness was displayed when he lifted Govardhana Hill and glanced over the gopis. God is shy. I smiled. Charmingly so. And he is always happy, Nandi, eternally joyful and untouched by any distress. It is said that not even a slight smell of distress can touch Krishna. Controlled by love. We talked about this earlier, but it bears repeating. Krishna becomes obliged to the loving spirit of the devotee Vasavarti. The demonstration of his obligation occurred when Mother Yasoda, tired from trying repeatedly to bind Krishna, began to perspire profusely, and only at that time Krishna agreed to be bound by his mother. No one can bind Krishna by any means other than love. Alcognizant. Krishna can understand the feelings of all persons and incidents in all places at all times, Sarvajna. When the Pavas were trapped by a scheme involving the wrathful sage Durvasa and his 10,000 disciples, Krishna, being all cognizant, came to their rescue instantly. He knows what we need before we ask, I said, and often provides before we even realize we need it. Eternal, knowledgeable, blissful. Krishna is Satsid Anandavigraha. His transcendental body is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Sat means ever-existing, Sim means full of knowledge. He has nothing to learn from anyone, and Ananda means the reservoir of all pleasure. The complete picture. The sun had set, and my father's study was illuminated only by the soft glow of his desk lamp. He sat back, his hands folded. "I've just given you a glimpse," he said quietly. 64 qualities, each infinite in depth. But here's what you need to understand. These aren't abstract theological attributes. These are the qualities of a person, someone you can know, love, serve, and relate to eternally. It's overwhelming, I admitted. It should be. But it's also intimate. Every quality we've discussed, his gratitude, his playfulness, his shyness, his beauty, his strength, his gentleness, they're all designed to attract different souls in different ways. Some souls are attracted by his power, some by his beauty, some by his compassion, some by his playfulness. What attracts you? I asked. My father was quiet for a moment. His kindness. The fact that he sees my attempts to serve him no matter how imperfect, and he reciprocates. When Prabhupada would speak about Krishna, you could hear the love in his voice. Not abstract philosophy, genuine personal affection. That's what attracted me. And that's available to everyone? I asked. To everyone. This comprehensive vision of the Supreme Beloved, the repository of all transcendental qualities, provides the philosophical foundation for the ultimate pursuit of life. The knowledge is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. By fixing the mind on this divine person, the soul transcends all temporary material conceptions and secures its eternal spiritual destination. I looked at my notes, pages filled with qualities, stories, Sanskrit terms. But what struck me most wasn't the information. It was the realization that we'd been talking about a person. Not a force. Not an energy. Not a principle. A person who could be known, loved, and missed. Dad, I said, when you chant the Mahamantra, when you say, Hare Krishna, you're calling out to him, aren't you? To this specific person with all these qualities? Yes, he said simply. I'm calling to someone I know. Someone who knows me. Someone who's been waiting for me to remember him. And he hears you? My father's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of something I couldn't quite name. Every time. He always hears. That's what makes him the Supreme Beloved. He never forgets us, even when we forget him. Outside, the first stars were appearing. And for the first time, I understood what lay beyond the inner paradise I'd worked so hard to achieve. Not emptiness. Not void. Not abstract consciousness, but a person, waiting, listening, ready to reciprocate. The Supreme Beloved, Krishna,